A scion of many worlds. You are endlessly hungry? Magrica demands, and he shrugs. After the fight, they'd kept moving, but he kept swerving away to grab more and more fruit. It was almost routine at this point. A quarter hour of flight, he'd say he'd be back and veer away. He'd then grab a fruit, often seriously angering the local wildlife to his own amusement, and then swoop back in, peeling away the skin. He'd offer her a first bite, and when she refused, he'd devour the entire thing in moments. I am and I am not. I understand that my body will attempt to use the power around us to sustain it, but that's not enough. Furthermore, I want to make it stronger both with and without the power. He explains even as he splits another fruit and quickly devours its flesh. His body seems to shift somewhat, and she raises an eyebrow at the odd sight. "What are you doing to yourself?" she demands as she notices his waist bulging sideways as something seems to be filling it under the shell, fur, and skin. "Remembering myself, who I was before I was made into this. I've been sensing into my own body. There are a lot of missing bits, and I'm remembering myself to fill it in. It's going to take a lot of sheer food. And what happens when you're yourself? Will you go home as if nothing happened?" she asks, and he hums loudly in thought. "I don't think I can. I think that I'm a copy." "What?" "There's a way to heal so thorough that the pain of your memories are undone as well. Every wound, every mistake, every scar and sickness, and everything that ever happened undone," Horace explains. Could that allow a warrior to regain limbs? Oh yes, regain youth as well. I went in to wipe a few years as a test, and the ban placed on me to retain my memories must have been stolen and used on this body, effectively making another me in an alien body. That would mean that your original self may be centuries dead, perhaps millennia even, unless the ban was some kind temporary thing, she asks, trying to root out information on this strange being and his circumstances. It was supposed to be temporary, but I can think of no other way for my mind to end up in another body from that point. If something else had happened, maybe, but I was just lying down for the healing coma. How is it done? Go to sleep with the help of a properly trained doctor or on the right kind of bed. The band is needed, otherwise you lose your memories. I should have woken up on that bed, younger and stronger, and pulled the band off myself. But instead you woke up nude and in that crystal coffin? Yes, which means someone's playing a game that involves sending me here where the grand midwives found me. Do you know what could have made that coffin? That kind of manufacturing talent is rare, and Magrica trails off as Horace begins outright chuckling at her question. It's not rare. Not at all. Beyond this world. What did Alur call it again? Lakren? Yes, this is the world of Lakren. The Eastlands of Urath, to be more accurate. This is the Tower Forest, named for its trees, and we're heading to Thorax Village, a place where there are other Urthani. I doubt we can stay there long. It will be the first place the Grand Midwives will look, and you've said that Urthani aren't usually warriors. Bringing battle to those unable to fight is a shameful thing to do. I was thinking you might want some clothing and to at least see what your own kind think of you. My kind? I'm not even sure what to consider my kind. Do I even have the same soul? I have the same memories, but Best leave questions like that to elders. In a person's twilight years, you not only have the experience to understand such things, but little is expected of the old beyond wisdom, so they're usually good at giving it. Magrica advises, and he lets out a thoughtful, rumbling noise that begins to trill before he abruptly stops. The trilling is clearly not his favorite sound. "Do you have better ideas?" "No." He answers simply, and she nods. He excuses himself again and snags more fruit on the wing. He's getting faster at it and brings back two. One he offers to her, but she waves it away. The sound of him greedily devouring the food sounds as loud as an avalanche, and the strange gurgling sounds as his torso expands and shifts is even more disturbing. What are you doing to yourself? I'm missing organs. Humans have extras. These extras let us devour even toxic foods, a strong defense, but there's a weapon hidden within as well. A weapon? He's conjuring weapons within himself? Is he an idiot? The adrenal glands, they're on the kidneys, organs that help filter the blood. They give a special drug that makes its user faster, stronger, and immune to pain. Okay, that does sound impressive, but... And you know exactly how to remake such a thing within yourself? I think so. If not, then I'm going to have a stomachache for the record books, he says, and her wings flare out to stop her dead in the air, and he flutters to try and avoid racing away. He looks to her in shock. Then stop, you fool. Reverse whatever great changes you've done and try not to kill yourself. But it is your flesh, not some cloak in need of stitching or a sword that needs sharpening. You take care of it or you die. Why would you even care? Aren't I just an amusement? He demands, and she sees red and flies into his face until her forehead is butting up against his so he can see her rage without being able to look away. I declared myself your ally. You declared yourself mine. Do you not understand what that means? No, I'm from another world. Perhaps you should explain. He counters, actually pushing back against her in indignant protest. It means that our enemies are shared, and with the midwives hunting you, they will hunt me too. You left them alive. You made sure they know of us. Yes, it's not you or me anymore, it's US now. I didn't expect this to be some kind of twisted marriage proposal for blue midgets. Don't you understand? You're the great prize of the grand midwives. You can do their great and sacred duty without being part of their order. They have to control you or their control over the planet breaks. But if you die, then they're going to string up whoever they think is responsible by their own guts and use all the healing power they have to make sure they scream as long as possible. You're afraid, he says, pulling back and grinning. She drives her head into his jaw and feels something crack. He falls from the air and then his wings unfurl to slow his descent. She dazed him. Even I can't fight entire armies alone. She snarls down at him. There's a cracking sound and a grunt of pain as he resets his jaw and spits out a bit of blood that clearly has a tooth in it. And that is the greatest difference between us. If I have to, I will break kingdoms by myself. If I must, worlds will burn. And you think you're so mighty? Some kind of war god from beyond that makes worlds shake? You bleed far too freely to be a godchild. Magrica taunts, and he suddenly swoops up to her level again. No gods, just men. And if you knew even half of what a man could do with cause, then you would scream in terror. Try me, Magrica snarls. If I wanted that pathetic temple of midwives dead, then I would simply fly back and slaughter them. It is easy to take a life. Life is fragile, waning, weak. I know how to fight a guerrilla war, how to leverage the strength and cunning of a few to slaughter the many. I would foul their supplies, strike as they rest, and butcher them like animals. I chose not to, though, because this world is a possible prize. A prize. An entire planet held captive by a mad cult that threatens the death of entire family lines if their every whim isn't immediately obeyed. That is a prize. I don't even have to conquer it. I just have to break the power of the cult and the people will follow me willingly. You're planning to become queen of the world without an army. How? I'm undaunted. What does that even mean? It is many things. An oath, an army, and it's growing into a philosophy, perhaps even into a way of life as well. To be undaunted does not mean to be unstoppable or unbeatable, but to never stop and to never allow yourself to be beaten. That doesn't make sense, Magrica protests. When is the fight over? When one side has lost. And if one side refuses to accept defeat, if they keep getting back up, no matter how hurt, outnumbered, or outmatched they are, then they die. When do they die? When they can't keep going. Where are you going with this? You can't just choose not to die. True enough, but it's not about doing the impossible, it's about everything else. I am undaunted. I will keep going. I will be strong until it is literally impossible for me to do otherwise. Until I am dead, I am not beaten. I am naked. I am unarmed. I am lost. I am so far away from my fellows I cannot even tell you the distance. I do not know if I will ever see any of them again. I face an entire world as my possible foe, and my one ally is furious with me. Magrica has no idea what to say to that, especially since he's smiling. I can smell the victory feast already, he says, and she sucks in a shocked breath as it finally makes sense. He's Mountain Clan, but from beyond the mountains. He's somehow everything they strive to be. Her smile grows to match his. Her people have siblings beyond the stars. Well then, let's go get it, she says, and then flies off towards Thorax village. The staring is uncomfortable. It's one thing to be naked. It's another to be naked and looked at as a cripple. Thankfully, the cloak I've wrapped around my waist is mostly pushing aside the discomfort, even if they're all clearly seeing me as half-naked thanks to their lack of knowledge of men. The Urthani are a very quiet people. Quiet, but curious. There's an area, maybe 5 paces wide, that none of them are approaching him. But then after that, it's a sea of fluffy moth women that are just silently staring at him. Their claws are digging into the wood as they all stare at him. Enjoying the popularity? Magrica taunts as she heads into the elder's tent. Yes, tent. These women build tents on trees. Less crazy when you can walk 4 people shoulder to shoulder across them and casually fly, but still odd. No. Horus calls back, and there's a waver in the crowd. He looks around to try and get at least a semi-decent look at the local clothing. He doesn't think that Magrica's loincloth and straps would suit him, but if he's an Urthani, he should dress the part. Sort of. Either these women are all naked or wearing white to match the fur. Why is he so dirty? One of the girls asks. Had to avoid a Nagasha, so dirt and mud it was. Horus remarks as he brushes his shoulder a bit. By comparison to these girls, he's absolutely filthy. The leave footprints as you walk around level of dirty, and no doubt they'll probably think he stinks too. And isn't that great for his self-confidence? There's a few minutes as Magrica speaks with the elder and Horus gets stared at. All right, that's it. Someone stand up so I can figure out what pattern to reshape this cloak into and get some proper clothing on. There's a deafening silence, and he takes 4 long steps to the left, and the women back off and clear a path. He flutters to the side, and the Urthani freeze as he's right there in front of them. Stand up, please. What are you planning on doing? You don't plan to tear off my breasts and rear end as yours were, are you? I am a man, not a woman. I am perfectly healthy and uninjured. Maybe a little dirty, but that was to hide from the heat sensing of a Nagasha for a time. Please stand up. I will not hurt you. At most, I will touch your clothing to better understand how it's put together. Is a man some kind of distorted woman? Is that why you have no woe? She asks, and Horus blinks as he tries to process this. It's a quirk of language. I have lost nothing and am not distorted, just different, Horus says, and she stares up at him before slowly rising up. It turns out she's wearing a stark white chest wrap and a long loin cloth that hangs all the way down to her ankles. Does no one wear anything but loincloths? She asks as he observes her outfit and finds a sort of cross-stitching in it. The pattern in the cloth, does it mean anything or is it simply something done? He asks, and she fidgets as she takes a step back and lets out a whining sound. Hey, undaunted! Stop scaring the locals and get over here! The elder wants to speak with you. Magrica calls from the elder's tent, and Horus nods as he takes another step back from the Urthani woman who scoots away from him before quickly flying off. Horus quickly opens his wings and soars towards the entrance of the tent and then lands calmly before stepping in. Oh my, aren't you a strange thing? an old voice asks before he can properly scan the area. There is a fair amount of wispy smoke in the air, rising from ornate clay pots with many holes within them. There is something in the smoke, some kind of medicine or painkiller. Between several of them sits the elder, a withered, shaking husk of a woman with her eyes bound to signify her blindness, but her antennae are fully intact and she can clearly make him out with trivial ease. Compact and different. He is, as you explained, Magrica, the elder says, emphasizing the HE. See? Magrica's reliable. She knows what few do. Magrica boasts and Horus gives her an odd look for speaking in the third person. Sit down, child. I've left the fluttering fear of my youth long behind, the elder says, and Horus steps forward and sinks into a cross-legged position. I am told that you are a stolen mind placed in a stranger's body, that you are separated from your people and hunted by the grand midwives, that you can fight many while alone and fear nothing, that your claws, delicate instruments of climbing and cutting, are seen as crude and blunt by you. I am told many things. However, I chose only to believe what I know to be true. Meaning? Lean forward, child, she says, and Horus does so. She leans over and her antenna brush against his. There is more to the story, the elder exclaims. Really? Magrica asks excitedly. Your body is ancient and unaging. Your mind is the youngest thing you wield. Your flesh is older than this entire village. You have been bathed in the tears of a spider garbed in white who weaves a shattered web of numbers and knowledge. You are the sacrifice that has awoken in the ruined temple. You are lost and discarded. You are pain. You are loss. You are hope and fear and wailing despair, she says, leaning back and smiling. What does that mean? I am loss. What happened? I cannot tell you. Events leave an impact if you know how to look, but just because I can see what happened to and around your body does not mean I know all things. I have seen the spider. I have seen time incomprehensible pass. I have seen despair and pain, and I have seen her plan to destroy your flesh time after time, but unable to do it. Most times, she is weeping. That makes no sense. If this spider is so attached, then why would she place my mind in this flesh? I do not know, but I do know it was recent. Not even a single season has turned since your mind was placed within that body. Can you trace it back? Is there a way of communicating with my other self, or maybe with my people? I can do quite a bit alone, but I'm stronger as part of an army. No, not without an artifact to serve as the link. I saw the artifact, but it's not with you, is it? It was not in the crystal coffin. Is there a way to contact my people? I believe so, the elder says. Although I advise you to depart soon. To save my village, I must say all that I have learned to those that come seeking you. You must understand this. You have your priorities and we have ours. Just remind our pursuers that we request they chase us with full purses so we may dine on their coin, Magrica says, and Horus snorts. Then to the north I bid you. Aridus Valley is what you seek. Therein lays the order of star seekers. The women there spend their lives reaching outwards to divine wisdom from the heavens. Have them connect you to your brother, to the soul you were twinned from. With their help, you should be able to speak with him, share memories of the stars, and with that, the Dauntless will be able to predict where I'm looking up at the night sky from. Dauntless, undaunted. What are the differences? The elder asks. The Dauntless is the name of a massive warship that I serve, that my brother serves upon. The undaunted are those who have sworn the oath. There are few upon the Dauntless that have not sworn the oath, and many off it have sworn it as well. It's just occurred to me, Magrica notes, and Horus turns to her. She smiles. You are not Horus Blue, your brother is. So what is your name? He blinks in realization. She's right. Horus Blue is the name of the human soldier serving on the Dauntless. He's a Caribbean man and self-taught mixologist. But he looks at his alien claw, the serration and harshness involved. He takes in the sensation of the very pulses of electromagnetic energy that his antennae are sensitive to. He can't see the crowd outside trying to listen in and can feel them shifting around nervously despite not being able to see it, hear it, or smell it in any way. He growls in his throat with a slight trill to it before he shifts how he's sitting and focuses deeply. He goes into his childhood, goes into his youth and considers, thinks, and deliberates. Then he grins. Jasper Blue, then. What? Then call me Jasper Blue, he says before chuckling. It's a joke and a way of stepping apart. I am not the person that went to sleep in an experiment with healing comas. I am something new. I am still of my family. I still have those forming memories and lessons, so I am still a Blue. But I'm not Horus, so I'll be Jasper instead. But a jasper is a kind of stone. I don't know what a Horus is, so how did you get? The elder asks in confusion. There are many stories back home. Jasper and Horus were minor villains. It's a silly joke to break down the horror of what's going on. The now renamed Jasper says, rising up. Hold a moment, the elder says, and she grabs a cane from nearby and rises up slowly until her antennae are nearly in his face. Kneel, child. Kneel so your name can be made yours. Jasper falls to a single knee, and with a single slightly shaking claw, the elder traces out a circle between his antenna and then places her palm upon it. She then speaks loud enough for the Urthani outside to hear her. I am Granzi, elder of Thorax village. A child is before me, his journey long and strange, his path twisted and made of starlight and tears. He has found that the name he has worn is not his to wear, not his to have, so he has placed it aside in humility and respect. And so, with respect and humility, I give to him a new name, the name he has chosen. Outside the tent, there is a rhythmic trilling from the Urthani. They may not be sure about him, but this is something they're positive of. This is something they know. You have knelt before me as a child of the family known as Blue. You borrowed the name of your brother Horus. You have chosen the name of Jasper. So rise, Jasper Blue, and bear your name with pride. May all of Lakran know this name in the days to come. Thank you, Elder Granzi, Jasper says, not knowing what else to say. If you want to thank me, then garb yourself properly. It's indecent for an Urthani to bare their chest like that. I only have so much material in this cloak and there's a long flight ahead of me, Jasper protests as Magrika snickers to herself. Do you not know how to sew and weave? I do. Heck, I know how to do it with axiom or the power, as most of you seem to call it. It's just, I don't know enough about this world. If I make the wrong clothing, I may bring about fights that are better avoided, and when Never mind. Can you show me some examples of clothing that would be appropriate for me to wear? She gestures to a chest in the corner. I doubt what's there will fit you, but if it's merely the pattern and cut you seek, then it will serve. Thank you, he says, and quickly steps over to open the chest. There is an oiled vest and pants with large compensation for the sheer size of the women in the world. It's been years since those fit me. The lacings along the side are for practical purposes, but also decorative, Elder Granzi says, and Jasper nods and grins as he sets them down and then adjusts the cloak to be worn properly. He pulls at the axiom and shifts and molds the power to reshape the oiled leather. He also pulls at the wood of the 2 sticks he still had to form hidden armor. There's an appreciative whistle, and he turns around to see Elder Granzi withdrawing a polished silver mirror. The being Jasper sees in the mirror is baffling, so thin with a deceptive coat of white fur with dabs of brown mud on it. The antennae stand tall and curve back somewhat. With the deep brown vest he's created, it shows just how skinny he really is, and his pants also squeeze down the fur. However, It makes his arms and the legs from the angle down look like puffballs until they reach the three-part black claws. He turns to see that the fur on his head is longer than the rest, but thankfully reaching backwards due to his flying and the mud to accidentally style it. He sticks out his proboscis and shudders at the sight. Interesting. Wait, a proboscis is often part of a nose, but I have a nose. We still need to breathe with our mouths full, Elder Granzi says, and Jasper nods. Ah, by the way, what does the trilling mean? The trilling? Elder Granzi asks, making a trilling sound herself. He nods and she smiles. It means you are paying attention. It's affirmation. It is many things and even anything, but mostly it is to declare that you are there and offering your attention. I see. So, Jasper's next question is cut off by something in the distance roaring, and he can sense all the Earthani take off to the higher branches of the tree. Whatever it was spooked them bad. I hadn't known one had gotten that big, Elder Granzi remarks as Magrika pops up with an eager look. Mine, she calls, and Jasper gives Elder Granzi a confused look. If she's up for a fight, then we're in for a treat. Come along, Jasper, she says, hobbling out on her cane, and with an amused look on his face, Jasper follows. Nothing like a bit of exercise to round out a day, especially now she knows that she's dealing with a proper clanswoman. Or is it clansman? Either way, his heart is Mountain Clan, something she should have caught on to when he requested to fight 15 opponents by himself. A little stupid, but knows when to be respectful, knows when to take advice, and has a mission. So she's not only got fun times ahead, but someone reliable to watch her back, especially as he grows more and more comfortable as an Earthani, which is an odd thing to consider. The roar of the Vinok sounds out as she sees the large creature thumping around. The nasty things have to be culled every few years before they grow too big, but if one's a particularly successful hunter, it grows very quickly, usually losing the traits that made it such a good hunter, and then goes on a rampage. The big stupid thing made of gray hide and leaves slams out of the underbrush with a bellowing roar. A gorilla rhino shrub? Jasper asks from above in confusion. It's mine, my opponent, she calls up to him. I get it. You've got dibs. I'm just watching, Jasper says from above. What is that thing anyways? Is now the time? So, you're saying you can't give a lesson while teaching that ugly thing who's in charge? His teasing tone brings a grin to her face, and she laughs as she launches herself down at the horned beast. It takes a swipe at her, but like many oversized creatures, it has little, if any, answer to what to do when the smaller thing you attack just rides the blow. Then comes the standard routine. A noise of confusion, a grunt this time, followed by the first few dignified attempts to shake her off. After that, they get more and more violent until the creature either slams into something it really shouldn't, or she decides to end the fun herself. The comfortable routine of killing something hundreds of times her size is like a warm blanket on a cool night, familiar and very welcome. There is still something to consider after all. Having a Vinok rattle the tree of an Earthani tribe is just rude. Poor moths are so flighty it might even traumatize a few. Oh right, Jasper wants to know what it is. That gives her an idea. She pulls on the power and her limbs grow absurdly strong even as her wings flare out and suddenly stop the thrashing in midair. She then heaves hard and the Vinok goes soaring upwards. It's called a Vinok. They start off as plants that use sweet smells to first lure in bugs. Then they start to move more and more as they go on to bigger and bigger prey. Neat. How big do they eat? Jasper calls down to her as Elder Granzi starts laughing in amusement. The Vinok reaches the top of its arc some 10 meters away from them, flailing hard and bellowing in the moment where gravity seems to be absent. Then physics comes back to remind everyone that while she'll let you have your fun, there's a price to pay for the ride. This is about the limit in this area. but in places with larger creatures to feed on, a Vinoc can seemingly blot out the sky, Magrica explains as the beast falls, and she angles herself before giving a mighty heave of her wings and launching clean through the beast like an arrow. She then snaps her wings open and stops her flight on the same level as Jasper and the Elder, receiving a strange gesture from Jasper as he slams his claws together and nods. "What are you doing?" "It's called applauding. It's a compliment," he says, and she smiles before fluttering over to land on the branch next to them. "And what's that thing you've torn out of the beast? Something vital, I assume?" "Oh, this?" she asks, putting the large pulsing orb she ripped out of the Vinoc down. The fact that it's as tall as she is was no impediment to her ability to rip it out. This is the core, kind of both the heart and brain of the Vinoc. They're actually plants, you see. Once they lure in their target, usually with a power-laced song or a sweet smell, they use the song to put them to sleep and wrap around them. They then eat their prey and grow much, much bigger. This one must have caught an alpha pack beast, or maybe a storm washed up a greater sea fang. Either way, the Vinoc ate well and decided that it was time to go out and chase down its meals rather than wait for them. Are these things a danger? Do they attack people? They root near the ground only in wet areas. They're also rather slow when they're small, and more powerful, minds easily resist the songs no matter their size. Elder Granzi explains before smiling. In fact, we have a grove of them we've cultivated to work as traps for the beasts of the forest. We make sure the vines are in good position and then take a chunk of their catch. It's how we get most of our meat. Also, these cores are delicious when cooked. Roast it on a spit until the juices are steaming and then let it cool for an amazing meal. Magrica explains with a grin. "Are they good raw?" Jasper asks. "They can be, but Vinoc core is a rare treat, usually something for ceremonies only," Elder Granzi notes. Of course, naming so unique a Earthani could count. "It's far too big to easily cook, so I'll tell you what, you make sure the girls know who to thank for the feast, and I'll trade this core for one the size of my fist." "Anything else?" Elder Granzi asks, and Magrica considers. "You have to let Jasper have some, but he's already eaten a lot, so I doubt he'll have much more than a taste." "By all means, please have the first stab, Mr. Blue," Elder Granzi says, and he smiles before regarding the massive orb. "Is something wrong?" "Just figuring out what to rip out first. I think I got it," he says, stepping forward and bringing his arm back to plunge into the fruit and get a good handful. "Not like that," Elder Granzi scolds him, and he flinches. "Use your tongue." "You mean the freaky stabbing hose thing in my mouth?" he asks, and Magrica starts giggling and congratulates herself for calling it. "Something wrong?" she asks, trying and failing to project innocence. "Look, this thing is really weird, and it's the main way most Earthani eat. Our sense of taste is strongest through it," Elder Granzi says, sticking out her proboscis and stretching it out a foot, wiggling it around to Jasper's combined horror and fascination. "So you're daunted by the task in front of you?" Magrica teases, and Jasper straightens up and immediately turns to the Vinoc core and stabs it with his proboscis. There's a trinity of swallowing sounds as Magrica notes the very easy way to make him do what she wants for later. This is going to be a lot of fun. "That was really, really good," Jasper admits after pulling out his proboscis, and Elder Granzi nods. "Oh my, yes, the whole village will love it. I'm surprised you have the restraint to stop. It's just hunger. You pull back before you overeat," he says, and the Elder nods. "Yes, but learning that is something not often seen in someone as clearly young looking as you are. I know your body is ancient, but I have no idea how old your mind is." 34, he says, and Magrica looks oddly at him. "So you're an old pile of wrinkles?" she asks, and Elder Granzi gives her a sideways look. "Wasn't aimed at you, big girl." "Sure, why not? Older mind and ancient body. Why not?" "Fantastic. Let's get my Vinoc core and we can be off. You've got a full stomach, a new name, and a strong mind. I think we can keep flying for a day or two." Magrica announces, and Jasper just nods agreeably. "Good idea. The sooner we get to Aridus Valley, the better."